The chaplain for our fire department is here with us tonight, Mr. Walt Saxton. Chaplain, thank you.
Should we bow our heads? Heavenly Father, we come to you in the name of Jesus. Lord, we thank you for this city council. We pray, Lord, that you give them the wisdom to run the city the best they can. Lord, we pray that they just continually do a good job as they have done in the past. And thank you for all these blessings. Thank you, Lord, for letting them work together with the communities around them and continue to do your will. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Chaplain, you're welcome. I'm a little bit ahead as it turns out. It says 6:50 is here. So in case anybody else is running on the broadcast time, we'll go on for a minute and a half or so. Give everybody a chance to be able to get here. Time is now 7 o'clock, and I will call to order this regular meeting of the Prairie City Council for Thursday, October 3rd. Would everyone who's able please rise? Would you join us in saying,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Everyone may be seated. Devin, would you please call the roll?
Craig Elliott.
Here.
Mindy Galvin. Here. Adam Grass.
Here.
Christopher Powell.
Here.
Michael Queen.
Here.
Terry Wood.
Here.
Mayor James Hughley.
Here.
All is accountable.
The quorum is present to conduct business. The clerk and I have prepared the agenda, and to the best of our knowledge, it has all matters of business that need to come before you for your attention tonight, and I submit it to you for your approval or your amendment.
Move the agenda be adopted as printed.
Second.
Moved by Queen, seconded by Elliott, that the agenda be adopted as printed. Is there discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please vote no. Motion carries. This will take us to reading and approval of the minutes. Devin, would you please read the minutes of the September 19th regular city council meeting?
Move that we suspend the rules, waive the reading, and approve the minutes of the September 19th, 2019 regular council meeting. Second.
Moved by Queen, seconded by Elliott, that we suspend the rules, waive the reading, and approve the minutes of the September 19th, 2019 regular council meeting. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please vote no. Motion carries. That'll take us to pre-approved reports and presentations. Dory, did you have an award to present?
Well, we were supposed to present it to our senior king, Jim Shaw, and he's not here yet, so I'll stick around for a few minutes in case he's a little late. Otherwise,
Okay.
we'll catch up with him later.
Well, our library board director is here, so that should give Jim a little bit of time to get here.
Yeah.
He and Deanna are at most of our meetings.
Yeah.
I hope everything's okay.
I scared him away.
Jim's quite old, a senior, and so it's going to take him a while to get here.
I just scared him away, so.
That's a good girl.
So council had asked in previous meetings to get a better vision of what the CDL's priorities would be if we acquired additional library space. And so I've spoken with CDL Director Jamie Cromley, and she's here to make a presentation for us tonight regarding that question. Jamie.
Hi again.
Thanks for having me.
It won't be like last time. It's just a handout, quick discussion, question to answer if you have any questions. I just wanted to be clear, more clear, I guess there were questions on the priorities of what you wanted to see. Okay. Oh, no, I didn't do one.
Oh, there's an extra.
Okay. Extras. This is, you're welcome. Okay. So there was, I'm not sure who asked the question, but for me to be more clear on what we would do with a larger building, a larger space, I just did a quick summary of the changing needs of current libraries as opposed to what they used to be historically. The role of the public library is changing to meet tomorrow's needs. Libraries are undergoing significant design transition. So this modern day libraries, we see a shift from in the space planning that is usually reserved for collections, equipment, and physical infrastructure. And now it includes a stronger focus on design for people, community building connections, basically libraries as community centers. And I think I kind of touched on that last time. So we're shifting the needs of the community from physical things to more community programming and that type of thing. So my priorities that I feel, and Carol, and I spoke about it with Carol, what she feels, she would like the new library, if it ever happens, a larger space, obviously a programming room. I think most of you have been in our current library, and you may have seen that we don't have a separate programming room. So we would like to see, obviously, a separate room that we could probably close off for meeting space, informational presentations. We do a lot of that at district-wide at our other branches, and we do all sorts of programming for that. A big thing that I would like to see is an expanded children's area. We don't have room for that now, and I know I've talked about that a few times. Something that's bright and inviting, to make the space a place where kids want to be. A lot of modern day libraries have active play areas. Think hands-on activities like puppets, Lego wall, interactive play table, that type of thing. We just really don't have room for that right now. A story time area, comfortable furniture. One thing I'd like to bring, not just to Perry, but to our entire district library system, is special needs collection. Perry especially, I work in Perry every once in a while. I sub quite a bit. We have a large group of autistic and special needs people that use the library frequently. Sometimes even group homes will come in and use the library. I'd like to see space for some type of special needs collection, something that even we can circulate. Books, therapeutic toy collections, speech therapy cards, story kits for specialized towards autistic and that population. DVDs, that type of thing. Also an integrated maker space, which we don't have room at any of our libraries, but we do have circulating maker kits. A teen space is something I would love to see. We have one in Corunna, and actually our adults seem to like to use it because it's got really comfortable furniture. That's where, teens nowadays, they sit in a group and they
Text each other.
they text, well they do, they text each other and they lounge and they talk, and that's just how they are. And actually adults like to do that. So the adults will actually scare off the teens in our teen area in Corunna, but I would like to see something like that here in Perry. Places to plug in, they bring in their phones, their devices, their computers, that type of thing. Obviously an expanded and updated adult space. We don't have an adult space right now. There is a spot in the library. We could probably put something like that. I'm not sure how we would do programming because it would have to go where most of our programming takes place, and we'd have to somehow get it movable. Study room. We used to have quite a few people using the library to tutor, but there's just not a separate space for that. So it would be nice if you could even use the programming room for a tutoring room. We often have lawyers calling and asking for space for depositions because they're supposed to be private. We don't have that at actually any of our branches. Corunna's isn't private enough. So I could see a lot of groups like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, just community nonprofits, I guess, using our space rent-free. So we have authors groups using the Corona Branch, all sorts of things. And of course, I'd like to see some type of space for displays, possibly, just special displays, possibly local history collections, that type of thing. So I won't go on too much longer, but the libraries are zoned for different age ranges, and I do have a list of the different age ranges that I would like to see that space zoned out for. Early literacy is a big thing, especially with the push to read by grade 3 at a certain grade level or be held back or retained. We're going to really try to push some programs. With that in mind, we need the space for it. So, was I a little clearer, or did you have more questions?
Council have any questions for
Yeah.
Jamie?
I do.
Okay.
You told us what you could bring in there technologically, but is there anything physical that you can bring in, like desk or anything like that? And I know you probably can't, but I had to ask it anyway.
Well, some of the newer, the larger libraries that can afford it, for instance, East Lansing Public Library had a large donation, and they used that donation to build a maker room. Basically, how kids nowadays learn how to code and do robotics and that type of thing. They learn with their hands. They have a whole room devoted to that, which I thought would be kind of neat. Capital Area District Library has a digital station where people can come in and, say for instance you have VCR tapes and you want to convert those to thumb drives or something like that, they can go in and do that stuff themselves on these stations. So that's things that we can do. We just, again, don't have the space for it, but it depends on what space we end up with, if we do end up with a space, but those are some things that I'm thinking of.
You can furnish the inside is what I'm asking. I know the agreement we have is we furnish the building.
The agreement is you maintain the building. So the furnishings, I would say CDL, we in all of our branches furnish.
The inside.
Correct.
Okay.
And in fact, we're probably going to get new computers district-wide here very soon. So we will be getting new computers, and I'm thinking of purchasing some type of tablets or something like that. So in kids' areas, a lot of libraries have the tablets that are, set attached to countertops and stuff, and I can't do that currently in Perry, but maybe if we can come up with something. But that type of use for space.
Okay, what about, you got anybody that can find grants or something? I mean, for a library, there ought to be some kind of grant out there.
It's, for what? You mean for buildings?
I don't care, anything and everything on it.
Well, Jamie and I had a meeting with USDA Rural Development about the possibility of some grants. There wasn't a lot to hope for, and we're running up on a timeline now. They were looking for applications before the end of September. And we've hung up a little bit on making a decision because it's a big number. There was no promise of any money being available there, but we've already opened that door as a possibility of grants, whether it be related to buildings or whether it be related to programming. And the CDL has the Berry money.
We have the
Provides
money
a
for
great
programming.
source of matching funds should those be needed to obtain a grant for programming purposes. So we haven't really made a lot of progress, Terry, but we did begin a discussion, at least through Rural Development, USDA.
Yeah,
And they do have some grants available.
Yeah, there are some grants. They're not as, many grants as there were, say, like 15 years ago when it seems like everybody was getting grants, but they're out there. You just have to dig for them, and they're competitive. That's not really, the building at least that you were looking at is not a historical building, so that does not, I looked through all that stuff, that does not qualify for a historical grant, but it doesn't mean there isn't something out there that I haven't found yet, so I'm looking.
Thank you.
How many square feet would you need? How many square feet would it take to make it what we want? Because I say what you want is what we want. And we got four.
Sure.
But, how many square feet?
I think currently the usable space, which is the front part of the library, I believe is around 1,800 square feet. And then there's some staff space in the back. I would say it would be nice to add a programming room and some teen space. I mean, I'm gonna guess, 4,000 to 5,000 square feet would be, nice. Probably could do with 3,500 potentially. I'd have to see that mapped out on paper probably, but just from visual estimates, I think we would be comfortable with that. And we wouldn't need, offices and that type of thing. There would have to be a work area to storage and work area and things, but I don't think staff space, we would need a ton of that, so.
Can the library, and I don't want to sound dumb about this, but can the library get a building, has extra office spaces, and lease any spaces out? Is that something that's an option?
Well, you would own the building, so that would be up to you. Since we don't own any buildings, I will tell you though that Corunna, the library in Corunna, the front part of the library the whole building was donated pretty much with the purpose of it being a library. But the back area where my office is, in the administrative assistant office and a programming room, we rent the office space back there because it's kind of a loophole that the library.
By rent, she means the
Yeah.
CDL pays the city of Corunna. for
Yes,
their
the
office
CDL.
space. They,
Pays,
the
because
library
I need an
doesn't
office,
collect
and that's where my office is. And
Got it.
So, yeah, they have kind of a loophole where they used to rent that space out to other organizations, but then those organizations left, and then we needed office space, so the previous director decided to rent that space.
We got a garage that's this building.
Pardon me?
I said we got a garage that's this building.
Oh, for office?
We got new extension.
Does it have a window?
No, but we were
With or
shopping.
without glass?
Terry's got this heater that he feeds corn into, maybe. you can
Yeah,
buy it.
I'm sure.
It's not how he does it.
I worked in some interesting places, but I'd prefer to not. We're working a windowless, but anyway.
Other questions for Jamie?
With the increase in size and stuff like this, would there be an increase in staff and things to man a much larger library like that?
It would depend because the CDL would have to, we would have to pay for the staff. So it depends. If the usage increased, then yes, we could probably increase some hours. And we have 2 staff members right now, that's adequate. That's the second most, Corunna is the only branch that has more hours, and not by a whole lot more, and they're quite busy. At this time, with the usage, I think we're comfortable with the amount of hours, but I'm not sure if the city is growing population-wise, I'm not sure what's happening, but potentially, if the usage increased, then yes. That's something we would want to look at if we could afford it.
Well, it's not just
With the
city,
current
but
millage.
This whole corner of the county uses that CDL, so Perry Township.
Perry
All
Township,
the
yeah.
surrounding communities.
A lot of Perry Township people, even though their Morris is really their library, a lot of them obviously live over here and use the Perry Library.
On kind of on the same lines with the increase in technology and stuff, do you guys have like individuals on staff that kind of help take care of all that, or do you
The
guys?
technology.
Yeah.
We don't have anybody who is on staff for that, but we subcontract with an IT person who's been with us because our technology is pretty sophisticated. Our circulation systems, our printing, all of that is tied in, and you do something wrong and it can all go wacky. He's very familiar with that, and he just comes in on an as-needed basis. The new computers, we're working with the Library Network, which is the huge library cooperative out of the Detroit area. They can get us a group purchase at lower cost for computers. They install everything there, and they'll bring it up and So we're pretty covered in that area. Yeah. Maybe someday, we'll grow and we'll need somebody like that.
Jamie, my vision in looking at that space was for a wide open floor.
Mhm.
And so my question is, having had that vision and having looked at the program that you've laid out here, would these 7 goals that you laid out allow us to keep that kind of a wide open floor plan that we might get in that
Absolutely.
house, rather than put up a bunch of walls and have separate rooms?
Yeah, we really don't want to put up a bunch of walls. You probably, obviously, would want a separated staff area to keep kids from back there. Even your programming room doesn't necessarily need a wall, although it is nice because we even have musicians and that type of thing. So, but I think yes, I would prefer to make it, to keep it open concept. That's what we've done over here. We've removed shelves, and if you had visited the library more than 5 years ago, you would recall how there was a lot of furniture in there, and so we've tried very hard to keep it open concept, and yes, that would be the plan. But yet, still maintain these different zones for different, you would know if you were walking into the children's area, you would know if you were walking into the teen area, but you could still see the whole library.
I'd imagine that would make your staff more efficient too, be able to look around from the staff area and be able to see the whole layout.
Yeah, if we had a different space, I think people would, not that they don't love their library, but I think they would feel more comfortable visiting. So, yeah, I have had, when I do sub there, people do comment and they wish it was larger, of course, and newer, but we use what we can, and I just appreciate you looking into this, whether it works out or not. I appreciate the effort, so.
Other questions for Jamie?
My granddaughter loves coming out there. She has a blast, and so I'm excited for the opportunity, and hopefully it will work out, or something can work out.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Catherine, you can jump in if you have any questions too. I just want you to know you're welcome to ask questions or say anything that you wish. Any other questions for Jamie?
Well, there's been talk about the fire department. Have you considered that or looked at it? I have not looked at it, no. And I've never
With the
ever been
city
in there.
and working with staff, we've done some evaluation. There's some serious costs related to converting the existing fire department. They have to be insulated. The roof has bad leaking in that garage area. There's a tremendous amount of space up above. We'd have to find a way to close that off, deal with the floor to make it much more comfortable. And the other piece of it is we don't know if and when the fire department's going to move out of there. They've got a long process to go through, and it's likely to be years away. Once that's completed, the other open question that we would have to resolve is, since the building would, I assume, and I'm only assuming this, revert back to the city of Perry and Perry Township, what would the township want in order to enable us to do that? It wouldn't be our building alone. And so there would have to be a negotiation process with the township, and I don't know where they stand on that.
Is any of that going to be addressed?
Well, since this is so far in the future, and the discussions I've had with Mark Fox, it doesn't really seem practical to address any of that. It's too far out in the future, and the fire department's there for an undetermined amount of time. Until they come up with a plan for what they want to do in new space and obtain a millage to build a new fire station, we don't know what's going to happen. So everybody sees it as very speculative, and I tend to agree with that. So it's hard to get answers to those questions. But we would expect that even if we could obtain the space entirely for the city at a very low cost, the cost to fix it up would be substantial. starting with fixing the roof. I haven't spent any money to go out and get an engineer to study that and generate numbers, but just based on the condition of everything and the substantial conversion purpose, we believe the costs would be in the range of what it would take to fix up this space that we're looking at now. And that's assuming that the township doesn't want to be bought out.
But it is an option.
Doesn't sound like it.
Well, not good, not well. Options
Doesn't
are,
sound
you
like we're
know.
even gonna consider it. I thought we were gonna have a meeting with John Cullen and Dino Snow.
Well, I've had conversations with Guy Hubbard about the situation of the building, but our main problem is we're looking years into the future and we don't know what's going to happen there. We don't know that the space is going to become available. They seem to think that they have a good chance of it becoming available when they move out, and then we would be able to move forward with some of these other questions. I mean, I could go out and hire an engineer to get numbers on what it would take to fix it up now, but if we were to do that, then those numbers would become out of date well before that space becomes available. So at that point, we're looking into the future, and it's hard to predict what is going to happen and when it's going to happen and what the results of that. So I haven't gone any further in exploring that. You know, like going out and getting an engineering report to come up with the cost of the conversion. I don't feel like I'm answering your question.
I would expect that you would get an engineer at this point. I would expect that Jamie would have to look at it and see if it would be something they could use.
I've only glanced inside it. It looks pretty large, but it's blocks, so I don't know, you know, you'd have to, I suppose, consider insulation. I'm not a construction worker, so I don't know what that would entail. And maybe the high ceilings, I don't know what you would do about that, but.
You'd have to take those garage doors out and block that up. You'd have to work out what your entrance is going to look like. You'd have to close off the ceiling above. Perhaps you could do that with a suspended ceiling, but you'd have to find a way to do it. But the first major repair that would have to be done is we would have to re-roof that entire firewall. So it'd be a substantial remodel, and that would all be on the city. If we could incur the cost of, well, first obtain the building and then incur the cost of fixing it up, I'm sure the library could use the space.
I've never been in there. Are they definitely moving then? Or would they have to
Nothing
do a
is
village?
set.
And,
Nothing is set.
okay. Yeah, I'm
They're
not
just
sure
talking about building a new fire hall
Okay,
in a location where they can get more space.
okay.
And last time I talked to Guy, they didn't even have that timeline fully worked out. It's a big project, so
Yeah.
it'll take them a while to go through that process, identify the land, figure out how much money they need, and then go through the process of getting the village approved to do that. Depending on how the voters feel about it, that could affect the timeline as well.
I guess I just thought we would go through the same process as we did the June Buggy Shop. Looking
What-
at it and
What is it that you were looking for us to do beyond what we've done already?
the same process that we did for the Dune Buggy Shop,
I heard having John look at it and
Yeah,
things
and-
like that.
assessing it, and
Sure. Well,
I guess I thought that's how we would do this.
well, it gets to be a problem for John using the contacts he has to get these contractors to come out and give estimates with no promise of work on a whole variety of buildings. What would it be to fix this one up? What would it be to fix that one up? Part of the problem is we
But
burnt
that
through
was
everything.
after we actually went in and looked, and and John looked, and we got his opinion. Then we went further and said we wanted actual pricing.
Mechanical engineer to come in and
Yeah.
look and everything.
I guess I expected that we would do it the same way.
We didn't get a mechanical engineer to come in and look where at the other location that we were considering. John obtained the numbers that I gave you by obtaining estimates from the contractors that he has connections with and asking them to come out and give us those numbers with no promise of work. Just what would it be if we decided to do this? And John and I have been reluctant to call those contractors out to do another set of estimates on another building. Just recently, we were talking about the bank. And we very quickly get to a point as we try to look at everything, that those contractors, we're gonna burn through our goodwill with them, and I don't wanna come out and give estimates just so we can keep looking at different buildings. So we haven't asked them for that. And that's the reason I'm reluctant to ask them for those estimates.
But we haven't taken the first steps either, so that's why.
Which first steps?
Well, the first thing we did when we were looking at the Dune Buggy shop is you talked to the owners, found out details on that, and then we went in and looked with John before any of the money was spent to have someone give true estimates. Assessor, is that what they're called?
We hired an inspector
Inspector.
to inspect
Yeah.
that building after
Yeah.
we began the process. I mean, if council wanted to hire an inspector to inspect the fire department, you could do that. You could talk to the same one we used before. There'd be a small cost to that, but your information that you obtain through that inspection will become out of date well before we have an opportunity to move forward with the firehouse and converting it to a library. So any inspection you obtain now wouldn't cover us ultimately when it's time to buy the building. You want to have another inspection done then, because as several years
I
pass, new
didn't say
projects.
that's what we should do.
I guess I don't know what steps you want us to do that we haven't
I
done
would,
for the
I would like,
firehouse.
I would like to know what Guy is thinking as far as time, when they plan to move on this.
My understanding, I don't want to speak for Guy, I think he would express this best, but my understanding is they don't know the answer to that question. And anything that they do now is subject to a number of other contingencies working out. They have to obtain new land. They have to identify it, don't know how long that'll take. Their board will have to decide what the right place is. They'll have to make an offer on it. They'll have to get the offer accepted, and make the purchase. They'll have to obtain the funding to build a new fire hall. They'll have to obtain designs and get the contractors. They'll have to build a new hall. There's so many contingencies in there that it's hard to get an answer on, even for them, on when they would expect to move. But we can count on it being several years.
So our meeting is off.
I haven't set a meeting up with John on this subject,
Well, you had
other than
asked
just
me-
casual conversations.
You had asked me if I wanted to be in on that,
Where we were,
getting together with them.
sure.
Just curious.
Well,
And
you and I
that's
could
been a
go
while.
ahead- yeah, You and I could have a conversation on that if you want, but just based on the conversations with Guy and John that I've had since then, effectively, I think if we get to that point, we're just putting this off for the future. Unlikely, we're going to be well through this term, and probably the next term before there's even time to consider that. Now, if you and I want to have a conversation with John and Guy, we can.
You said it, I didn't. You had said it.
And by then, we could have a brand-new, big, huge library, and the fire department could use that extra space.
They'll be wondering what they're gonna do.
They have so much space, you know? Shelves, and shelves, and shelves.
It's just that the information isn't something that anybody can give us a reliable answer on. because there's so many contingencies that have to fall in place. I think Guy and John would never try to give you any more of an estimate. Well, maybe and I'm not speaking for them, they haven't told me years. They might go, well, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 7, we'll see, could take 10. And I don't even know what kind of time frame they're thinking, but it's not within the next few years, 3 years out easily to get through that entire process. And it's not impossible that something amazing could happen and they fall right in place too, but if I were a betting man, I wouldn't bet on it happening in 2 years or less.
I bet you would. Good odds.
Depends on a lot of things that they can't control.
But that's if he was a betting man. He's not. Sorry.
Other questions and things for Jamie? Thank you,
Okay, well,
Jamie.
thank you for having me and listening to me.
Love having you.
Okay.
Well, I don't see Jim Shaw, so we want to give our congratulations to Jim Shaw, who is our Perry Fest Senior King, and we will keep his plaque here at City Hall. He can stop by on any day and see Dory and pick that up, or if he wants to come to our meeting in 2 weeks, I'd be glad to award it to him then as well. Congratulations, Jim Shaw. Thank you. So we'll close out pre-approved reports, and we will move to public comment. It is at this time during our meetings, and also at the end, under any other business may come before council, that we open the floor for members of the public to address the city council on any matter. Would anyone from the public like to address city, there is a 3-minute time limit on each section of public comment. Would anyone from the public like to address the council at this time? Hey, Bob.
Good evening.
You have to say your name if you want Devin to write it in the minutes.
Bob Porter, 330 North Madison. It's kind of funny that Jamie came here to present because I was going to talk about the library. I support the library 100%. I just see, I've been coming now for 3 or 4 months, and the council has talked about purchasing a dune buggy shop, doing a library. Seems like there is not a concise plan to do whatever they're going to do with the building, other than a library. So we can have an open space, we can put the library out in the parking lot. If you don't have a plan of what that space is gonna look like and what exactly has to be done to the building, seems, in my opinion, foolish to spend the money without having some sort of a plan. So I would like to see the city have some sort of a rainy day fund prior to that, but I'm not saying taking the importance away from the library. I think it is very important, one of the most important buildings you can have, but just have, in my opinion again, a plan in place. So we know what the space is going to do, not just have a space, since I hear library do deal with it. Thanks.
Thanks, Bob. Would anyone else from the public like to address the council at this time? Seeing no other public comment, we will move to communications. Devin, do you have any communications for the city council tonight?
I'm not gonna share the winners, but I will let you know that Mindy has picked her winners, and Dory will be setting it up for them to be here at the next meeting. And if you want to announce those tonight, you can tell them. That's up to you. You have a copy of this. And then I just want to let you know that there are 2 resolutions that you did not receive in your agenda packet due to, I was getting legal approval of them. They were, the details of what is going on is later. It was in your agenda packet. But I apologize that I didn't have the formal resolution for you to review before tonight. So you have a hard copy of that. And then a positive thing, merchants are already contacting Dory asking about Christmas event. So Dory has asked that a meeting be set up. So there is a Christmas think tank meeting scheduled for Monday, October 14th, 2019, at 7 p.m. in council chambers. We'll discuss last year, times, events, and hope to get participation of people that were involved, and ideas and confirmations, and all of the above. And that's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Mindy, did you want to announce your picks tonight, or did you want to save that for the next meeting when you can make your presentations?
Up to the next meeting.
Okay. That sounds good. She said she'll do it at the next meeting.
Okay. I heard that.
What did you say, Chris?
She said you're gonna do it the next meeting.
Next meeting.
Next meeting.
Okay.
Next meeting.
That'll move us to mayor and department head reports. Let's start with Police Chief Kyle Barnes, who I know has at least one piece of good news for us.
Good evening, everyone. I do have a bit of good news. I believe that I've mentioned in the past that I applied for a Brian J. grant through the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police to attend the International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference in Chicago at the end of the month. That has been processed through the state, and I am a recipient of that, so they will take care of the costs up to $2,500 for me to attend that international event. So that has been something that I've wanted to do in my career for some time, and especially being in Chicago so close, it makes it even more possible. So that was good, and we got the official word via email yesterday, I believe. James and Joanne got the email as well. So gotta get all the final paperwork around to make everybody happy, but it's a reimbursement grant, but I added additional monies into the training line item to accommodate this, should I get it. So that was good. We had several buildings at the school that were broken into and vandalized, and I'm very pleased to announce that we have confessions from some students, and full confessions. So we'll be able to prosecute, and the school will be able to take action appropriately there. We do have scheduled a night shoot that is coordinated and hosted by Wasso PD, but they are utilizing the Sheriff's Department's range and inviting all the surrounding agencies in the county to attend. So we'll be sending officers to attend for that night shoot. And Tuesday was a long day, but I drove up to Saginaw and testified in the Joshua Rosebush case. And if you're unfamiliar, that is the incident that took place on Woodbury Road back in January, and it's finally come to trial. Today was day 4, and from everything that I've gathered, it looks to possibly be in the hands of the jurors by tomorrow morning, mid-morning, late morning, and they'll be deliberating. We may have a verdict by tomorrow afternoon or early next week, I hope. So I was glad to be a part of that and see so many other people that were included on that, and like I said, it was a long day, but it was well worth it. And that is all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Hey, the police report you just give out, I believe you said you were going to do it quarterly and you were going to give it available to them, but is it falling down? Because I have requested to get that every quarter if I could.
I wasn't asked to deliver it, that's all. The message didn't get to me, I'm sorry.
Okay. Can you
Is it in
just-
my box upstairs, Kyle?
You were given it some time ago. I'm not sure
Let's
when.
go up and check my box tonight before you go, Terry. See if I missed something on this after school.
Elevator. Yeah, I would like one every time. I like looking at it. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you.
On the news before I got here, don't close your eyes like that, it's just me. They said something on the news and then I had to leave about a phone call from the case that you testified yesterday, a jailhouse confession or something. What else would there be for him to confess to? Have you heard
I wasn't
anything?
there.
And
I
nothing
don't
like
know.
that? Okay, because it was on 3 different news channels this
Okay.
afternoon and I just never got to hear what it was and so.
I do know that every phone line in a jail is recorded.
You would think a criminal would know that.
I'll bite my tongue.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Safe conference.
Thank
you.
They don't. Devin, you have a report for council tonight?
No, thank you.
Any questions for the clerk? DPW Superintendent, John Souter.
Good evening. The obvious City Hall parking lot has been coated and crack sealed. The VFDs and well houses 1 and 3 were completed installation on Tuesday. And the valves at the water tower either tomorrow or next Tuesday will be installed. And I'm hoping that we get the sidewalk project going next week. Just been some scheduling stuff to get that. Public Works, myself and the other employees have been working on finding new lead and copper sampling pool sites, which would be residential homes. I need to come up with a few more than what we had because some of them under the new sampling guidelines from DEQ, which is now called the Eagle, have changed slightly, so the tiering criteria is slightly different. And we're working on the service line inventory of unknown service line materials that we don't have any data on. So we're working on that stuff.
Any questions for John? Thank you, John. Thank you. I don't have anything to report on for council that isn't an agenda item matter, but if council has any questions for me, I'd be happy to take them. Any questions for me tonight? Hearing none, we will move to committee reports. Does anyone on council or our school board representative have a report that they'd like to give tonight?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
We've been very busy getting to know our new superintendent, Dr. Lori Haven, and she's been busy getting to know all of us. And by all of us, I mean everybody in the community who would like to speak with her. She will make time for anyone who just wants to meet her or just has some kind of question about the school district or suggestions. She wants to get to know the community as much as possible. Also, she had many nice things to say about our police department with the help that she had from them when they were trying to run down the people who were vandalizing the barn and joyriding with the golf carts, etc. She said that our police department was excellent to work with, and she said that Mr. Box was very helpful. That's all I have to say this evening.
Thank you very much. Any other reports from council tonight? Any committee activities? Chris, did you have your parks meeting?
Yeah, we had a parks meeting on Tuesday, I think it was.
I
Wednesday.
thought it was Monday, but
Yep.
Monday.
It was, right, you weren't there.
Well,
It was- it was-
Why don't you tell the team?
It was-
I'm gonna sneak through.
It was Monday, Bob was there, and it lasted a while, but we had some great ideas. The 5-year plan for the parks project is expired. And there was a whole lot of that completed. The pavilion, that happened, and some other things. So the city did a really good job. Tom Miller and Tom Sheppy, I am going to invite them to our next meeting because we do have to come up with a 5-year plan. They both have experience on that and we really need it bad. The next meeting is going to be, I don't have the date, but I will let you know. The school let us put that up on the board, so I thought we'd have a few more people show up about it.
Make
And-
sure that Devin knows far enough ahead of time. that they can request it in
Absolutely,
messages.
absolutely. And we had some really positive things and I'm excited. I think we can get a lot of bang for our buck because we don't have many of those in the parks. But we're gonna ask on a lot of help from the citizens of Perry, the businesses, some donations. Labor is gonna be a big thing if we can get people to come and help. Terry and I have talked for quite a while about a walking path. Eventually, the idea of hooking Perry's walking trail with Morse and Shaftsburg, I mean, you can come from Grand Ledge through Lansing, East Lansing and Hazlet. Now you can come all the way to Perry without touching Blacktop. And so it's just a great thing. There's a lot of money available for that, for the parks. And some other inexpensive things, Frisbee golf. Jubilee Park, it's not huge, but we could get a nice course that people would come and play on. We have the park everyday things such as horseshoe pits. I was told back in the day they had leagues in Perry, and there hasn't been leagues in over 20 plus years. The shuffleboard courts that are out there now are pretty much beyond repair. The concrete is just crumbled away. So it's the little things like that that we're gonna start picking at before we get our grants filled out and what else we'd like to do and how much more we would like to be able to come up with on the grant. So the next meeting, love as many people to come as possible. Like to have it up on the 3rd floor if possible, but we'd have to have a lot of people for that.
It's not being used.
If it's
Use
not
the 3rd
used.
floor.
And it's just,
Just post it so they know who go there.
I'm really excited about it. Bob had some great ideas. Mr. Dunn, George Dunn. He has a thing that he used to be a scoutmaster in Perry back when, but Perry does not have Boy Scouts anymore. It is just gone. And that's a shame. But he has to teach the kids how to read a compass. Well, now they read a GPS on their phone, another app. And we can get the kids involved. We talked about having the opening, invite the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts of Shiawassee, Clinton, the areas surrounding, and make it an event from the city of Perry to the Scouts. And we can have a lot of coverage in this. Ideally, I'd love to see Perry continue to grow, continue to go. They've got the property values, the schools, and the parks. And we have great schools. And we have great schools. And I'm really proud to say I'm from Perry. I didn't go here, but people that I've talked to, family members, I'm excited, but we need a whole lot of help from the public. And so I want to have the Friends of the Park come to our next meeting. And I will let you know in plenty of time to get posted. And there was a whole lot more that I did not remember. It'll come back to me when it's Terry's turn to speak.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Other committee reports tonight.
Well, the McLean House Committee has only had one meeting. And there's a lot of problems scheduling meetings. And we don't have one scheduled.
Well, Craig has some religious holidays that he's doing, as soon as those are settled, we'll get one scheduled, but until he does that, as a work group, we need to respect that.
And you're not gonna be able to get it for everybody. So the ones that can make it, great, the ones that can't, that's what we, from what I've seen, works the best. A lot of people are gonna be interested until it's time to have that actual meeting, and then wife, kids, football practice, eating dinner and homework, and then it's dark already, so.
Well,
Good
it's
luck.
been over a month since the committee was set up and we've only had one. And dates are thrown out there, but people don't respond. I'm told that no one has responded.
I have emails that I sent to Mr. Wilson responding.
Maybe we can get the work group.
Well, I was planning on setting a date with Easter after the meeting, but I wasn't reporting it here because this committee's not for groups.
Okay.
And yours are open to the public too? Is that something, Devin, that could be on the board? An invitation to the retirement
It'll
meeting?
depend on the purpose of the work. The purpose of the work group, if it's to sit down and negotiate with the Historical Society, I would suggest that you don't do negotiations in a large public meeting, but you do it in a quiet meeting so everybody can have a frank conversation. Like when the judge sent us to mediation over the concrete crushing situation. That was not a public meeting, that was a closed one, so that all the parties could have the ability to have a conversation, speak freely without stirring things up out there. The work group has been kept to less than the size of the quorum of the council to give them some flexibility. There very well are times where it's good to have a public meeting, but for this purpose, there may be times when they want to close that in order to facilitate the conversation between everybody.
Gotcha.
Maybe, I didn't know if you had more.
Well, I'm part of the work group too. So, I'm not getting any conversation from anyone.
Unless I got the wrong number, maybe I texted you last week and then I tried to call you too. I may have the wrong number, but I thought it was your number.
I've got a number.
Okay, well, I'll show you. I thought the message came from you. So I'll show you and we'll make sure I got the right number. Because I did text and call you both this week, or last week, and the last week. But I may need the wrong number. We'll make sure we get the right numbers after the meeting.
Sounds good. Other committee reports tonight? Okay, so we will close out committee reports and we will move to presentation and approval of the bills. Council has had the opportunity to review the bills and we seek your permission to pay them.
I move that we approve the bills as presented and that payment be authorized.
Second.
Moved by Wood, seconded by Powell, to approve the bills as presented and payment be authorized. Is there discussion on the bills? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Motion carries. That'll move us to old business and mayor's appointments. I have 2 appointments to make tonight. I had moved quickly on this because I had spoken with Tom Bridges over the past several months about his pending retirement, and so I had already pulled together who the hiring committee would be. It was myself, the city clerk, and the chief of police. I included the city clerk and the chief of police because they, more than anybody else within the city, work with the city attorney. And so I thought getting their input was very important in this process. And I had already begun a process of observing the work of and working with our assistant city attorney, Justin English. as part of an evaluation process. There's nothing that is quite as effective in evaluating a professional than watching them at work and having those conversations. And so Tom Bridges and I had selected certain coming tasks that would be his responsibility. Responsibility for those legal functions was passed to him, and I worked closely with him. It is our consensus as a hiring committee that our current Assistant City Attorney, Justin English, would be a very good choice to step in as our new city attorney. And so tonight, I am announcing my appointment of Justin English to be city attorney for the city of Perry effective January 1, 2020. And I'm submitting the appointment to council for your consent and advice. I'll open the floor up for discussion.
He's the one that was working on the mold.
Yes, I worked with him on that. And some others as well, but that was the most high profile work. And he's still working on it now. This isn't an urgent matter. We're not lacking a city attorney right now, so you guys don't have to act tonight, but I'd like to have some discussion where you're at, if there's anything that you need in considering this. If you have any questions for me, I'm glad to answer them.
Move that we accept the mayor's appointment of Attorney Justin English as City of Perry Attorney effective January 1st, 2020.
Second.
Moved by Queen, seconded by Grass to accept my appointment of Attorney Justin English as City of Perry's attorney effective January 1, 2020. Is there discussion?
How many times have you seen him in action?
Well, I've worked with him off and on over the last, I think 3 years. He's been our assistant city attorney, but I've worked with him more intensely this year. He handles a lot of our criminal matters, and he works with Chief Boggs directly on that, and has for the last 2 years. And I worked with him closely over the last 6 months, in particular related to the situation south of town.
I just didn't know if it was some guy graduated and thought he looked like he was doing a good job. You know,
I've been satisfied with his work, the rate at which he responds. When I have had questions for him, I've been satisfied with the answers that he's been able to provide. I found him to be knowledgeable and effective, and he does the things that I would look for an attorney to do and represent the city.
Almost as much as I did.
Yeah, I think Terry knows him. He's worked with him, not as city attorney, but as an attorney. Do you have anything you want to add?
No.
Terry?
Well, I picked him for a reason.
That's fair.
layaway payment?
No, unfortunately.
Other discussion? Hearing no other discussion, I'm sorry, Chris, did you?
None, no.
Hearing no other discussion, all in favor of the motion, please vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please vote no. Motion carries. I received an offer from Tom Bridges to step back and stay on, at least for the time being, as the Assistant City Attorney. I discussed this with Justin English after I had the opportunity to discuss the City Attorney spot and what he thought about that. It was Justin's opinion that having Tom's long-term history in our community available to him would be a useful asset in functioning as city attorney, and that Tom would be able to do a good job handling items that have to be handled. From time to time, we need an assistant city attorney to do the work because the city attorney might be away on vacation or something else comes up. I have worked with Tom Bridges for a number of years, and I would make the appointment of Tom Bridges to replace our assistant city attorney, and for that to be effective January 1, 2020. And I submit that appointment to you for your advice and consent.
I move that we accept the mayor's appointment of attorney Tom Bridges as the city of Perry's assistant attorney effective January 1st, 2020.
Moved by Elliott, seconded by Queen, to accept my appointment of Tom Bridges as Assistant City Attorney for the City of Perry effective January 1, 2020. Is there discussion?
Are our attorneys, are they paid a salary by the city? Are they
No.
paid by the?
No, they're independent contractors and we pay an hourly rate, which is the common practice with the legal profession.
Okay, I didn't.
It would be unusual for a city attorney to be salaried. And frankly, we don't have that kind of a legal budget. So a full-time city attorney would be far more money than we spend this way. And in each case, we pay whichever attorney does the work. So if the work's assigned to Tom Bridges, we would pay him.
Okay.
If the work was assigned to Justin English, we would pay Justin. And then whatever they do between now is up to them.
Between them.
Further discussion?
That was the only thing I wanted to know.
Hearing no other discussion, all in favor of the motion, please vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please vote no. Motion carries. This will move us to possible approval of real estate purchase and possible approval of allocation of funds of real estate purchase. I submitted some information to council at your last meeting regarding estimated amounts of money needed to fix the dune buggy shop up and make it suitable for a library. Tonight, Jamie from CDL came and gave a report, and these were the pieces of information the council had requested. Do we want to get into this discussion tonight? Do you guys want a little time to absorb Jamie's report? What's council's pleasure on this?
A lot of time. I don't think it's, when the city's always talked about enlarging the library could do some great things with more space, and they could. The dune buggy shop came available, and then it was like, boom, everybody thought the library. Then the bank next door, and then everybody thought about that, and then, like Bob said with the library, we need to take a step back and come up with something that's gonna help, and for the library and for the people that has to help pay for it. I think that, I think we need to step back and maybe get a group. You know, we have want lists, which is great, and we have need lists. And with the other two buildings, there's enough room to do everything, but at what expense to a 50-year-old building? And so I'd like to, I just want to wait. I don't want to vote yes or no, because I don't think it's fair. I think we need to decide what's in the best interest for everybody, and then go that way.
Do you want to table it, no action?
I would.
So let me suggest something so that council has an opportunity to absorb this. I'm assuming, I'm not hearing an objection. I know we're being careful about this, we're being thoughtful, and we're moving forward deliberately. So let me suggest that the route that I would envision in funding a new library in the old dune buggy shop, based on the numbers that we have related to cost, would be one, we have a budget surplus from the prior year of $70,000 to $75,000. I'm going to let the auditor give us the final number on that. But if I assumed on the low end of $70,000, we have a current library with the market evaluation values it between 72 and 75. Being a conservative kind of guy, I'm rounding it down and I'm saying 70. That's $140,000. council had asked some questions regarding the possibility of bonding some of the costs, and so I had the city clerk do some research into bonding. Council has the authority to propose a bond. I would propose, if that's the direction you want to go, you look at a bond of approximately $100,000. That's 240, and is on the high end of the numbers that John and I have generated through the process of obtaining estimates. The cost of a bond under current interest rates at $100,000 would be just $4,400 a year. So something that is very easily managed within a year-to-year city budget. That would give the money necessary to obtain and prepare that building to be a library. Now, what council will need to do is figure out which is the correct next step. If you want more solid numbers and a plan to lay the library out, you need to hire a design engineer for that purpose. That'll be an expenditure. If you do that first, we run the risk that while we're working on this, somebody buys the existing dune buggy shop and it's not available anymore. The other option is to give me some direction, make an offer on that building. I would like council to tell me what kind of offer you'd like to make. You make the offer, and if we can lock it in, now you have the building, but you don't have the more detailed plan, the more detailed cost engine estimates that a design engineer could do. We can proceed whichever way the council thinks is the most responsible route to go on this. But I want to just kind of put that out, so as you guys think about this over the next 2 weeks, you can have that in your mind when you come back and have that discussion. So, Chris has made a suggestion that we leave this no action taken. I want to ask first if anybody else on council has any comments or questions that they want to ask. And when everybody's done, then I'll ask if I have everybody's consent to leave these items no action taken. So I'll open the floor. Questions or discussion? Do I have everybody's consent to leave these items as no action taken? Hearing no objection, we'll leave them no action taken.
Thank you.
That moves us to discussion regarding a local historical district and grants. Has anybody had a chance to talk with Mallory Bauer? Would council like to discuss this, or do we want to leave no action taken, or do something else?
Again, I don't think that there's anything to talk about until we settle something for the courthouse.
Do we want to continue to leave this on here as no action taken, or would you guys like to table this until a future date?
If we take no action, we may have a meeting scheduled before the next, and then the next meeting we can decide no more what we want to do, depending on what the McQueen House wants to do.
Well, this
I see no action.
This is a separate thing from the
Created historical district fund.
It's totally not even remotely the same idea as the Queen House.
I don't know
Queen
enough.
houses are historical.
No, I know, but this is talking about doing a total legislation that needs to be involved, that involves more than just the Queen House, involves the whole
Well, if
city.
we don't have the McQueen House, then what is there to talk about?
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, let's table it until other things are done, because there's no point in just keeping it on here, because it's not connected.
It's something down the road that we
Definitely, we can, that's why tabling, you
You-
can bring it back in the
Yes.
future when we have the opportunity to
You
do it.
could table it to an event specific, such as a motion to table until the work group comes back with a recommendation. And then a meeting after that happened, this would reappear on your agenda. But it's up to you guys. It can be on there, no action taken, and we'll just come up next meeting and we'll have a discussion if we're ready to move forward or if we want to leave it in place. Whatever you guys prefer to do in this regard.
I say let's table it until the deal with everything with the Queen House and bring it back up at that time.
Move the table, the discussion regarding local historical district and grants until a resolution has been made on the future of the Queen House.
Moved by Queen, seconded by Wood, to table discussion regarding local historical district grants until a resolution has been reached regarding the McQueen House. Did I capture that?
But if it's about the McQueen House and this is a totally separate issue, then the McQueen House is just a district, a historical district. What's the difference in there?
The district could be much broader than the Queen House. It can encompass several other properties. That's my understanding. Whereas the Queen House is simply
The
The house itself.
maintenance. It's
You
not-
can't have this just the Queen House. It deals with more than just that.
Okay.
It deals with landowners throughout the whole city that have historic properties.
In the program that Mallory presented, adopting a historical district ordinance is part of the process of getting access to the program that she's presented. So you guys would have an ordinance to consider and a program to consider as you look at this. You want an understanding of that and decide what the decision is.
Okay.
So they're not unrelated, but they're not the same thing. So we have a motion and a second. Is there other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, vote no. Motion carries. That'll move us to new business, possible approval to repair the sewer vac truck. John, did you have some presentation for council on this?
Break it already?
Yes.
It happened over at Mr. Wood's house.
That's what I need to clean my camera.
Thank you, Jamie.
Our sewer vac truck, I put it in the budget to have some extensive work done. The budget numbers changed. What you have in front of you is some repairs that I'm gonna do here in our shop before sending it out to try to save some cost to motor pool. So this money was budgeted back during budget time for, I think it's capital outlay or something. I budgeted like $26,000 for the truck. I had them reevaluate the entire project and it come back almost $29,000. So I'm trying to cut costs and do it here as much as we can. And I don't want to be without the unit. So I'm looking right now to replace a whole bunch of stuff on the suction side of the truck that we use to hydro excavate and clean sewers, different weldments. These trucks are specialized, that's why the cost is so much for the parts. So the total cost would be $4,428.88.
Will that suck up that whole camper sitting by my garage? I'll vote yes, it does.
If you chop it down in 6-inch pieces, it will.
Jerry's gonna be busy tonight chopping that into 6-inch pieces. So, are there questions for John? Council have any discussion? What would your pleasure be on this?
I move that we accept and approve the quote to make repairs to sewer vacuum truck from Jack Doheny Companies for an amount not to exceed $44,28.
Second.
Moved by Elliott, seconded by Grass, that we accept and approve the quote to make repairs to the sewer vacuum truck from Jack Doheny Companies for an amount not to exceed $4,428.88. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, vote aye, please.
Aye.
All opposed, please vote no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, we have setting Halloween hours requested by Councilman Wood. So the proposed hours are for October 31st from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. This would be what we have traditionally done for Halloween on the Halloween holiday. And the 6 to 8 hours have been our ordinary hours, so I'll open this up for discussion, questions, and motions.
What day of the week is it?
Thursday.
I just suggested we do it like we usually do, 6 to 8.
That's the proposal.
Oh, I didn't see that word.
I move that trick or treat hours in the city of Cary will be from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on October 31st, 2019.
Moved by Queen, seconded by Grass, that trick or treat hours in the city of Perry will be from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on October 31, 2019. Is there discussion?
Make it not rain this year.
I'll sign the order myself. Let me know how it works out.
Yeah.
I'm about 50-50 on those.
What shows the weather on your TV?
That's a good one.
Thank you very much. I worked on it.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Motion carries. That'll move us to possible approval to amend city fees schedule. Devin, did you have anything you wanted to talk to council about on this before we get into it?
Again, the resolution wasn't in your agenda packet, so if you had a moment to review it, and have any questions, what you have in front of you is the application for site plan, and there was a recommendation that, so that everybody is being charged the same, we are adding the escrow deposit. The initial site application fee is already in play. The resubmittal is already in play. But to be uniform in your resolution and so that it's understanding when I give it to staff, I put the whole amount and included the escrow. And then the application for temporary use, we had learned that it was not in our fee schedule. So I proposed to you to set the fees. And the conversation and the advice I'm getting this from is from the planning firm that you hired.
So this is just what's brought. One of the key elements in here is the $1,500 escrow, which is taken to cover professional costs that the city has to incur for planners and engineers. The applicant puts the escrow deposit down, the city bills against that escrow, those professional costs that are necessary to review the request, and any unused balance is refunded to the applicant. If it's a much more sophisticated project and more than $1,500 in professional fees are incurred, then the additional fees would be billed to the applicant. This is a common practice, and it's something that we had worked to set up through the zoning ordinance that we developed and adopted over the last several years, but this is a piece that the planner recommends, to have this escrow deposit, and it's a protection for the city. By collecting that up front, you know that the applicant is serious, and you've automatically covered a sufficient amount of professional fees that'll handle most of the requests that we get.
And I guess to add with that, your zoning ordinance supports this. You just don't have it in your fee schedule.
I move that we accept and adopt the resolution presented, which amends the city fee schedule. Or
Moved by Elliott, seconded by Queen, that we accept and adopt what was the language again? The fee schedule, that looks different. than what I have here.
city fee schedule.
The city fee schedule is presented by the clerk. I got that right.
Looks good.
Is there discussion?
Good question.
Yes, ma'am.
So is the escrow deposit for any like rezoning or anything like that, then there would be this, what would it be for?
That's why I try to define it so that it would be clear. This is gonna be on the application for a site plan, just the site plan.
Just the site plan.
Site plan, yep, because that's what your zoning ordinance supports. It references it back and forth, it defines it, it explains it. The only thing was missing was an amount, and I was advised that, so that the city couldn't be questioned, sometimes we can charge you the extra, sometimes not. It does put that may in there. Your fee schedule would be cited in precedence that everybody would pay it for a site plan, and there is the opportunity that you'll get a full $1,500 back. But it's treating everybody fairly, and by putting in the fee schedule, everybody it's just an added piece that we learned that is important for the future. Does that make sense?
Additional questions and discussion?
Temporary uses?
Temporary uses in your zoning ordinance, and we learned a few things about that. One of the items that we learned is it was put into our zoning ordinance, but it wasn't really completed. So it was advised to add the temporary use to our general zoning permit. It can be added right in there. And then again, it was advised to the fees that actually the business, I'm just gonna say the business industrial amount is the same if somebody would pull a zoning permit to verify whether their property is zoned that way. So it's the same comparable fee. Temporary use, our ordinance specifies certain things that are only a set amount of time. Example, a farmer's market that would be asked is one of our examples. We also have abroad, anything that lands in temporary use, there are rules that apply into that process. So again, City Council does not have a fee schedule, it's not in the fee schedule. So on proposing that because it's part of your zoning ordinance and because it can be applied to the actual zoning permit, it doesn't need its own permit per se. It can stay on the zoning, it'll just be on the zoning permit in a drop down is what it's gonna be done with that fee. It's a little bit of reading, I don't know if I explained the temporary use enough, but it's something else that we came across and we found that we had some pieces missing. Mayor has asked me to follow through with some of the missing pieces, and hopefully we'll get some answers. We really haven't gotten any answers yet on how to go forward and what should be considered. But these are basic things that I knew and that I could handle and present to you that is done.
And there may be more refinements to policy as we work forward on this. The situation south of town has been a learning experience for us. Now, the council has contracted with the planner, so the city has quick access to a planner that will help us with future requests and developments to make sure that we get it right. And I've asked the clerk to work with the city attorney and with the planner to help us refine the policies that we have in place to make these things run as smoothly as possible moving forward. So this is just one piece, and there may be more coming down the road as we get this developed. That'll have to come before council for your approval. Other questions or discussion? Hearing no other discussion, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Motion carries. That moves us to possible approval for 2013 Public Act 270 compliance. Go ahead, Gary.
All right, we'll talk afterwards, right? I move that we accept and adopt the resolution presented to comply with the Publicity Funded Health Insurance Contribution Act.
Second, or you second?
I second.
Okay.
Moved by Wood, seconded by Grass. The language I have in front of me is different than what council
Yeah,
has.
I'm learning that I can shorten their motion.
Yes. Moved by Wood, seconded by Grass, that we accept and adopt the resolution presented, which complies with the publicly funded Health Insurance Contribution Act. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, please vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please vote no. Motion carries. That concludes new business and moves us to any other business that may come before council. This is our second opportunity for members of the public to address the council on any matter. There is a 3-minute time limit on this section as well. Would anyone from the public like to address the council at this time? Seeing no public comment, I'll ask members of council if they have any items of business that we haven't addressed that need to come before the council for consideration. Seeing no additional items of business, we will move to council discussions and observations. Mrs. Hahn, welcome back.
Thank you.
Did you have any discussion or observations you'd like to share tonight?
Well, we just like to reiterate my thanks to the police department for helping us solve the problem that we were having with vandalism on the school property. And our new superintendent is looking forward to getting to know everybody in the community. If you have questions for her or just would like to meet her, call her office and she'll make time to meet with you.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite her to a meeting.
She might show up.
Who's got the next
I-
school board meeting?
I'm going, it's third Monday of the month, so I'm going this
You can
month.
invite them.
I,
We
Oh, shy.
assigned months, and Mr. Powell is supposed to attend the next school board meeting. So,
Look
I'll
forward to seeing you.
for Terry's sake, I'll show you more things.
So we'll go to Councilman Powell. Discussions and observations tonight, since you got started already.
No, I'm really excited about the opportunity that Barry has with the library in the park and make it that much better of a community. And other than that, I'm good to go.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gilman.
I thought Prairie Fest was amazing. And I want to thank the merchants for doing all the stuff they did. And it was just exciting, just all the activity uptown.
I'm sorry, I wasn't making a face at you. Craig was doing something, and I was making a face at him.
It was like the face was, what are you doing? Mindy, sir.
Anything else? Thank you, Mindy. Councilman Elliott.
No comments?
Councilman Grass.
No comments.
Councilman Wood.
No, I don't.
Mayor Pro Tem Mike Queen.
I had the opportunity to, a rare opportunity to get to take my son to and from school a couple days this week. And the crossing guards do an awesome job. It's nice to see the kids out there taking things so seriously. See the police presence out there on a daily basis doing a good job too, but just we need to remind people to go slow, be safe, be cognizant. Right when the buses come and pick and drop, those, the streets are kind of one way, so, you know, be, like I said, be cognizant of the people who walk around and the children walk around.
Thank you. Councilman Powell advises me that I've talked enough tonight. I don't have anything else
Yeah,
to
that's
add.
what it was tonight.
So that will close council discussions and observations. Agenda items for the next meeting. Let's keep mayor's appointments on there. There's still a couple of things that need to be filled, specifically a seat on the local officers compensation committee. In fact, I see a possible candidate in the audience I should ask. Also, I did have an opportunity just a little bit before the meeting to talk with Councilman Grass, who will accept a reappointment to the SADA board, so we'll put that on. So we'll have mayor's appointments on there. And then we will have possible approval of real estate purchase, possible approval to allocate funds for real estate purchase. And that's all I have. Does council have any other items for the next agenda at this time? If anything comes to your attention between now and our next meeting in 2 weeks, please bring it to the city clerk's attention, and we will endeavor to make sure that you have all items that require your attention on your next agenda. The time is now 8:33 p.m. We're adjourned.